Hey guys, Space Marine 658 here, and I'm here to bring you our next developer's log for Rigged. This week, I've worked a lot on 3D modeling and fixing some issues with the quest system, as well as learning procedural texturing, which will kind of show off here in a second. It looks kind of bleh in the unlit mode, but it'll look a lot better once it's lit up. Um, but yeah, I did some 3D modeling. Now this garbage can, this texture is just temporary. I put it on there just to have something to slap on there real quick. But alright, let's jump into it. So I've also added the ability, as you'll see here in a second, for the lights that are outdoors to be able to turn off and on. So that when it gets closer to nighttime, the lights will turn on outside. And then as it comes daytime, the lights will all turn themselves off. This is a lot of places have this kind of automated system. It's very rudimentary, just kind of like if it has a certain amount of light, then the system will turn on or off, which means rain will actually affect those. So if it gets too rainy, these lights should turn on. Now that's not how they're implemented here, but I mean that's a really easy thing I can implement. But I've also done some 3D modeling, as you can see here. It's a bit weird with the shadow. There's a shadow falling on the object. Yes, it's a big AC system. And it's actually got the fans modeled. And my goal is to have some noise coming from here and some a little bit of steam rising up from it. Because these are AC units, so they do cool a lot of buildings. And they'll probably have pipes coming out of them here somewhere that'll all branch off to the different like little buildings that all have their AC systems. Now other buildings might have their own separate AC systems. This is just sort of a hub for some of the buildings. But let's go over here and take a look. So these are the procedural textures I worked on. They're pretty cool in that while they take a little while to bake and they take a little bit of knowledge, I had to learn how to do this. They're really handy because they almost always, as long as you scale them properly, look perfect on every texture. So even if this thing was a mess of normals and the UVs looked like just a mess, it still comes out looking pretty good because it's based off of sort of the face of it. So it actually looks pretty good. It was a little bit too oversaturated normal-wise, so I had to reduce the normals a bit with a flatten. But otherwise, it looks pretty dang good in my opinion. It just needs a bit of work on the rest of the building, so I plan on doing a procedural concrete texture to kind of give this a little bit of life. And then probably one for the roof as well. And then this will be sort of like a middle piece to a building. So you'll have a bunch of these stacked up, and then at the very bottom and at the very top, you'll have two separate pieces. They'll all be connected, of course, like stacked up one on top of the other. But keeping them separate like this allows me to really expand this building, and if I have any buildings that are very similar to it, I can just do some minor modifications and then just spread them out, and makes my life a little bit easier. But yeah, let's go up to the AI up there. There's actually a change I have now implemented in the quest system. There's a bit of a bug. I was having some issues with getting it to recognize that you completed that quest, and that once you completed that quest, to be able to talk to this character. But I've now got it figured out. So right now, you can try to talk to him, and he basically won't talk to you. But I come over here, talk to Fred. He'll give me the quest. So now I've got a quest received notification. Come in here. I've got this quest. So now it shows up in my left-hand corner where my objectives will be. I probably will put like a little thing above it that'll say like objectives. That way, you kind of understand what's going on. You just don't see random text up in your left-hand corner. But I come over here, talk to him, and because I talked to him, that's all I had to do to complete that quest. I mean, more advanced quests will have you do other things, but now that I've completed that quest, I did get a bit of relationship bonus with the survivors and XP, as I said last week. But then also, the quest is actually gone now. I've removed it from the story quest, so now you can't find it. And now I click this, and this is my current quest. But if I actually click on him, he actually now has different dialogue. Having already completed that quest, it's not going to restart and try to give you that quest. He actually will now move on to other things. So maybe I could ask him, about his family or why he's out here, whatever I want to do with the story. Maybe get a side quest from him or whatever. But yeah, I think. Oh, and then I made some 3D models, so let me actually drop out and drop back in. That way you don't see that blood texture constantly popping up. But I made a few different models, like I showed off earlier. The trash can, the texture, of course, is temporary. Um, but eventually I'll have a better looking texture on there. It's just the quickest one I could find to throw on there. I've got a little street drain. Now these eventually will have little holes beneath them and will basically allow water to go down into the sewer. There's not gonna be any like actual fluids to move down it. It's just more for looks. There will be rain eventually, and so my goal is to have a sort of really cool looking rain system that will splash on the ground. So one thing that'll be cool about this is because the collisions are actually set up properly, rain could fall through and splash down the bottom, which is a really cool little touch. I think a lot of games they would just splash on top of it, even though it should go through. And then over here, I have these pallets, which I need to do a little bit of UV fixing on these pallets because there's some of them are overlapping a little bit. But yeah, I think they look pretty dope. And I think that's it for this week. Yeah. The reason why I went procedural texturing, just to kind of give you guys a little bit about that, was I was struggling to texture these buildings because no matter how I set up the model, the textures always seem to come out really weird and kind of ugly, and I didn't like that. I wanted something that I could have that was more flexible, something I could reuse, and something that would look a little better in game. So I went with this brick texture, which is done through the procedural modeling using procedural shading using Blender's shaders. And then what I had to do was bake it out into a texture, which then is perfectly applied correctly because it's already on there, and it basically just bakes it into the texture in the exact form it's already in. So if I did, change the scaling on these bricks, I would have to rebuild the texture. But because it's, I've set it up pretty well, it shouldn't be too bad if I have to rebake all these textures. Once I figured out how to do that, it took a little bit of learning because there's not a lot of resources on it. It is not a new thing, but it's something that's just not as popular yet. It's kind of grown over the past few months to a year because it's gotten easier and more optimized in Blender to do this. But it's still not necessarily the recommended way yet because hand painting textures is still a little bit easier and can produce better looking results if done properly. This is just easier for people like me who struggle a little bit with the hand painting and have a little bit easier time with the math behind the procedural texturing. But yeah, I think that's it for this week, and I will see you guys next week. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below if you haven't already. And I think that's it. Bye-bye.